Hi, folks. My name is Sean McLean. I want to talk just a minute about something that we can do in a classroom, a virtual or a live classroom, or facilitated sessions or workshops or almost any session at all where there's multiple people involved. And that is how to run a review. So I think some of us might be familiar with this reference because so often reviews that we run kind of run something like this. We ask the question, and again, and again, and again, and then because no one's answering and they're all staring at us, we give the answer. And maybe you know the movie reference. If not, I'll encourage you to go look it up or put the names of the movies that I mentioned in here in the comments. But that aspect of doing a review sometimes spikes. Really, it only trains people to kind of sit still and try to act like sponges, which really doesn't help memory very much. In fact, when it comes to doing a review, and again, it doesn't matter whether it's a training class or a facilitated workshop or even a meeting session, running that kind of, hey, let me tell you what the things are, don't really help us make those things stick. Speaking of, if there's another good resource I steer people towards, a great book for facilitators, this one, Make It Stick, talks about the things that I'm talking through, but maybe the methods are the ones that I want to include. So the thing that happens along those lines that makes people forget is something referred to as Ebbinghaus's forgetting curve. And if we look at Ebbinghaus's forgetting curve, what we see is that angle that essentially memory drops off a cliff. Almost as soon as you walk out of the session or the workshop or the meeting or the class, it's gone. And if you go down the hall and someone asks you, you're like, yeah, I don't remember. That's the point to Ebbinghaus's forgetting curve. But the interesting thing is that one of the things to combat Ebbinghaus's forgetting curve is that idea of retrieval practice, actively calling or recalling that information. So rather than asking everybody like a sponge to kind of stare at me until I give them back the answer, when I run a review, whether it's a training class or a workshop or a facilitated session or even a meeting, I ask them to provide that information to me. And so I kind of flip the review from the asking the questions and giving the answers to the asking them what are the things that they think are important, and then moving into the mode of a transcriber or a documenter. So as they're asking the question, I'm writing the answer for them. To do that, when I deliver classes, I use an open Google template. So I have participants kind of engaging in it and writing notes and questions, and that way we all share it. It also provides participants with that feeling that when they get done the session, they have something unique. It's not just the book that they had that they read in the class or the content that we covered with a bunch of slides, but they together put a collection of things that's maybe different for that class that won't be like any other version of the class because it won't have those same participants. So to that end, in this document, I have another movie reference here. At the end of any session, I ask for everybody to contribute just one thing. What's their one? What's their one takeaway? Now, to the end of that takeaway, when I ask that, I'll move into the mode of being the transcriber or the documenter. A lot of times trainers or teachers or facilitators aren't used to doing that, but for me I think it's a great tool because as they talk to me and tell me, whether it's through a chat or other thing, and I document it, it gives me also the opportunity to reframe what they're saying in a context that's more specific to the things that I know we need to cover. Now they can go in here and edit it as well, and I think that's fine. But by documenting this way, I also give them that added takeaway so that when the session is done, in addition to them doing the retrieval and remembering the content that we covered throughout the day, I can send them this, which means they'll see it again. The other cool thing about doing that is that as long as there's more than one person in the class, chances are the one thing that you think of isn't the one thing that your neighbor in the Zoom is going to think of, or the one thing that the other person in the Zoom is going to think of, or maybe the other person in the classroom across the way from you. They're all going to come up with different things. But when they do, it's liable to spark the memory of those people in retrieval. So my one thing might get yours going and make you have another one thing. I find often when I do reviews this way, once one person happens, it kind of spins and I get a lot more things coming along. And someone says, oh yeah, that, or well, what about this? And I just write them all down try to clean them up and organize them or curate them so I can send it as a thank you. So when I do a review, rather than going for the ask the question and tell them the answer, I flip the review and ask them to tell me the thing that stood out. Now, one of the other ways I do to sometimes bring them in or engage this, you may see wisdom up here. I have to give credit where it's due and say, I learned this from another manager in enablement, Mr. Derek Green, who taught me this concept or this acronym of wisdom. What I say or do different on Monday. That's kind of how he leverages, what's your one? What's your one thing that you're taking away? And I think it's just a beautiful and brilliant way to do that. And I think it's kind of another cool angle. And I hope that in hearing this, it gives you ideas. I want to know what your method is for getting your students engaged in that review and providing the things that they recalled by maybe, or if you flip it as I do, instead of asking specific questions, ask them to give you the answers that they've pulled in over the content that we've covered. So I hope that's helpful. Again, my name is Sean McLean. Again, I'd love to see in the comments your methods for pulling engagement out of that review and maybe breaking that Ebbinghaus curve by creating that retrieval that gets people to keep things working in their heads. Thanks.